Hello, in this video I'm going to be making wall storage for this wall. I'm going to make a 12 by 4 section of a pegboard system, not your traditional pegboard, but one that can be cut into laser, more elongated type holes. So I'm going to be making a wall of that. For those who followed my videos, part 1, part 2, or at least in part 2, I said I was going to do something different with regards to making cabinets and so forth. Decided not to go with that just because of my budget for this is limited, and also wanted to make it have a decent look to it. I had a bit more time to think about it over the holidays, so I'm going to go with the pegboard system. So we're going to get that started. I do have some 1/4 inch aspen here. It's almost 3/8, I think. So I'm going to cut that up to make 3 by 2 sections so I can put it in the laser. So I'm going to cut that up first. So let's get moving. So I made my design in Lightburn, but before I cut out a whole sheet, I just want to make sure that it's going to work and it's going to look the way I want. So I'll just do a little section. I also will cut out a hook to make sure it's actually going to fit in there. Because I have to make sure that the width of the holes are the right size for the thickness of the plywood. Okay. Whew. Doesn't take too long. Just take this off. So I cut right through, no problem. And the main thing is I want to check is the thickness. It's actually a little bit too wide. I mean, it does definitely, it definitely fits. But I think I made them too wide. All right. I might have to redo this stuff, so let me just check in on my design. I'll make a bit snugger, and we'll try that again. Oops, sorry about that. All right, let's see. Oh, that's very close. Still be tighter, although if I'm going to paint them, but I don't want them wobbling around too much either. Slightly tighter. This should do it. Oops. Yeah, that's nice. That's just fitting in there, especially if I have paint and on it or clear coat on it. Good. That's gonna have to make do. Now I need to make a hook. Okay, I made a little design to test out the hooks to see if that'll work. Make sure you can see this. So then that's like a little hook there, but essentially this should fit right in here, like so, and then it latches in at the back. Like so. So then you can make any kind of piece that you want. Of course it'll fit in these too, but again, this one would have been a little bit too wobbly, so that's why this new size will be perfect. A little bit tighter, a little bit more snug, especially once you have like a box, something like that. The little system should work quite good, and you can put quite a bit of weight on that. I'm sure if I were to test it, probably put like 100 pounds on there, I'm thinking, before anything would break. So yeah, nice little system. And of course I'll have them sort of offset so I can do, you don't have to use 2 hooks, but when you have more weight you can use 2 hooks, you can use 3 hooks if you want a bigger one, but you can also use just the 1 hook too. Of course I can't use it here because but you could have it as a 1 hook and then you just extend the bottom so that it just leans against it. So yeah, that should do the trick. I'm really excited now. That's working. All right, on to the big piece. So I made these little wood fingers a little bit too long, so I'm gonna have to sand them off, and I'll probably adjust the length in the laser in light burn a little bit later. I always like to have a little bit longer than too short, so this way I can just sand them off and it'll be good to go. And then I'll just be able to glue the second layer on top to make it a 1/2 inch plywood. And then I can put my 3D printed pieces on there to put the drill sets on there. There we go, nice and smooth. I used my old rigid orbital sander because my Festool that I would have liked to use there for sanding is still buried in the corner with all the other junk. So I just figured I'd go find this. This was in our back shed. It's my sort of backup orbital sander that I keep in case the Festool breaks down or something. But it also comes in handy when your Festool is buried. So always good to have a backup. It's time to glue. I'm going to use some of my wood glue in my French's mustard container. Works, one of the best glue dispensers I find. And then I'll use some CA glue as well and then clamp it down. So I'm going to try to stay away from the fingers so that if I do want to remove the shelf from the holders, the brackets, I will be able to do so. So I was just testing out these 3D printed holders for the Ryobi tools that stick in here like so. So they're just 3D printed and they hold on there. And of course it has a hole at the bottom so you can screw it to the shelf or to the wall or whatever, however you want to do it. Now when I originally had my friend 3D print these, I had a different design or idea envisioned for my tool holders. I didn't have this wall idea back then. And since then, of course, it's changed. So, and I was trying it out. Of course, it does seat nicely in there, but it does leave a little gap. And so if I put it on the shelf, it tends to wobble. Now, of course, if I screw it down, it shouldn't wobble. It should just go on there. What I'm worried about, though, is that when I pull it off, because it is stuck in there, you know, it's got a good grip in there, like the batteries. So if I do try to pull it out, when I pull it up, it'll probably just pull that shelf up because I don't have it glued in there in case I want to move things around. That means I'd have to make another type of latch here so I can lock it in, but then the shelf would still move and stuff. So I'm thinking I'm going to put these aside for this shelf of tools. I do have other tools and I might be able to use them for that, or I might get more tools and I might use a different type of holder because it'll be higher up. I may not want it on a shelf higher up. I may want it to hold it more like against the wall. That's where these things can come in handy. So unfortunately for this little project, I'm just going to put it on the shelf and display them like that because I find they're fairly solid and nicely displayed just by sitting on top of the shelf like that. So that's the plan for now anyways. We'll give you a final look very shortly. I'm just going to make another shelf now for the batteries and put the battery charger there because there is a plug right there for it. And then I'm going to make a couple more holders for the screws and my glues. That's the main things that I use. That'll probably take up the rest of the plywood that I had left over from making this wall. So I'm going to get to that right now. Okay, next I'm going to try and make a holder for these drill bits and a few other drill bits that I have. Bought these little value ones at Rona. I'm not sure if they're any good, but at some point I'll give them a try. But I will make a holder. One thing I hate about these holders is that they're so tight and pain in the butt to try and get these things out of there. So I'm going to make a holder that is at least a little bit easier to put in the holes just pop them in a little bit looser fitting. So yeah, that way I'll put it right below the. That way I'll put it right below the drills themselves over here, and so it'll be a number of different attachments and stuff that I can put drill bits and router bits or the zip bits and things like that. Nails, airstrike nails, the pin nails. For the pin nailer, I'll have that there, so it'll be more of a, yeah, I can just have little sections for that. So that's next. I thought I would just stop and talk a little bit about how far we got with the 2 sheets of plywood. Sorry, my heater just came on there. So 2 sheets of plywood. This is pretty much everything minus about half the boxes, I say. So maybe 3 out of the 7 boxes would be the 2 sheets of plywood to make, of course, a 12 by 4 foot area, and all these shelves and attachments and everything else. So minus 4 boxes, let's say. We'll take that off. So that's pretty much everything I was able to make, the different accessories with the 2 sheets of plywood, or in total $120 for that, or a little less than $120. I think it was $117 with the taxes. So it does pretty good. Pretty good little setup. I actually still have a bit of plywood left. I just haven't gotten all the way yet. So I still have this one here. I did cut some out of it, but I still have room to maybe make another small shelf or 2. And this one I can make some more brackets. 120 bucks, not too bad. I now want to make a couple more shelves, and I do have extra plywood, so I'm gonna make some more stuff, but I just thought I'd give you an idea of what you can make with $120 for wall storage. Kind of looking a bit like a store, I think, eh? The way the display works. But the cool thing is that everything will be easily visible. I do like my screw holders there. Let's get this wall done. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you for making it this far if you have. I really appreciate your support. So I thought I'd just go over quickly some pros and cons of what I think about this system so far. Obviously, as I use it, there might be some more pros and cons that I might feel, and I'll try to do an update about that somewhere down the line. But for now, some of the pros. Pros, I would say one is the cost. As I mentioned, I only paid about $120 for the plywood because I also had extra plywood left over from previous projects. So I was able to do, the whole wall, and I still have lots of plywood. I can make shelves and everything else. So that's where if you were to do the same replica of this system, being of 12 by 4 feet, I would suggest at least 3 plywood, 1/4-inch plywood to use for this system. Not everyone has a laser or CNC, but I could see that you could make this with a router if you had a template or even a scroll saw maybe, but most likely a router and, using templates, and you can route them out, it would be doable. So you don't necessarily need the laser and CNC. I just use the laser because it is so much easier to draw it up in light burn, throw in the plywood, let it do its job while I do other stuff. But I could see it being done with the router if I didn't have those machines. So that's one pro, is the cost. Number two, I would say the fact that I can see everything right in front of me at a glance. I know where things are. I can grab it, use it, put it back. More likely to put it back because I can see where it needs to go. I do like the idea of having cabinets, nice and clean and hidden. The only problem is, knowing myself, yeah, it would look nice on the outside, probably. I opened the cabinet and stuff would start falling out. Even though if I had a system and baskets and everything else within the cabinet, I'm sure it would start getting overfilled. It has happened to the cabinet under the CNC machine. I'm totally horrible when it comes to organization inside of cabinets. So I'm glad that I went with this system where I can actually see it, and if it starts looking messy, I can just do a quick cleanup. So that's another pro. And then the other pro, I guess, is the flexibility of the system, where you can actually put stuff anywhere you want. If you want to move it an inch up or down and over or whatnot, you can do that. I can make longer shelves, shorter shelves. I could do anything. So that's one of the great advantages of this system. I should say it's also a con because I end up spending too much time trying to figure out where I want to put things. So it's kind of on the con side. I guess it's a good con to have. But speaking of cons, so good three reasons: cost, visibility, and flexibility. I guess the main con would be that it's open to the dust, or spray or off spray, depending on what you're doing in your shop. So there's that aspect of things where it can get dirty. So just to keep that in mind, pros and cons, mostly the pros for me. That's it in a nutshell. So thank you so much. If you made it this far in the video, thank you, thank you, thank you. You can even show me more support by just hitting the like button. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps our algorithm a lot. To show it to more people. So yeah, thank you. Now, if you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button so that you get at least notifications, or it'll come up in your feed whenever I do make new videos. I do have to make some more stuff here in the workshop, like a chop saw or the miter compound saw cabinet. I need to make a new cabinet for the table saw and flat master and put the router into the table saw, etc., etc. So there's a lot of things to do. And everything behind the camera, the other side of the shop, there's a lot of things that need to be done as well. So I hope you subscribe so you can come and see those videos also. Again, thank you so much for being here. I'm Paul from Dusty Workbench. Take care.